Jason Derek Brown, the prime suspect in the killing of armored car courier Keith Palomares outside a Phoenix movie theater, had vanished. 6 weeks after the crime, cops found his getaway vehicle abandoned and vandalized at the Portland, Oregon International Airport.
What does that indicate to you?
Where that Escalade was placed was a message I believe Jason wanted us to receive, and I think he wanted us to think that he was gone, that he either took a flight out of that Portland International Airport and fled the country.
In the months after the murder, Lance Lysing and other FBI agents interviewed his Phoenix friends and neighbors, hoping they might help create a profile that would point them to Brown. What they heard was contrary to what they expected. There was a surprising revelation from that camper who was out in the desert with his son when Jason Brown accidentally fired a shot into his truck. While on the run, Brown mailed him a cashier's check for $1,300 to cover the damage, along with a Toys R Us gift certificate for the young boy.
Jekyll and Hyde personality.
Exactly.
It's the personality that is so desperate enough that wants to kill somebody for money, and then so charismatic enough that you're his best friend in the bar, or you get you give a gift certificate to a child for ruining the day if he was scared.
Investigators also interviewed Ellen Robinson. She was a realtor who met Jason Brown while showing him a house on her block a year and a half before the crime.
And he took a quick lap through the house, and he was really most interested in the garage. And he said, yep, I'll take it, I'll rent it.
And why was that? Why the garage?
He said he had a lot of toys to store.
And what did he tell you he did for a living?
He was an importer-exporter of golf equipment to Asia. In his whole garage, he had it full of golf balls and equipment.
How was he as a neighbor?
He was kind of like a big kid. He was generous. He'd help people out. He'd golf with some of the neighbor guys. Kids would hang out with him, especially my son. He took us all boating once.
Mike Campbell also lived on the same block as Jason Brown at the time, and the two were friends. He told the FBI Jason owned all the toys a boy could want.
A BMW, Cadillac Escalade. He had a Jeep Rubicon, a special edition boat, 2 quads, Yamaha crotch rocket, and 2 dirt bikes.
A lot of motors in one man's garage.
Correct.
Was he a player?
He had that playboy mentality. I mean, from day one to the end, it was, money, 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 money. Hey, let's go out, to the clubs and everything. He always paid for it.
6 months later, Brown abruptly moved out. He told friends a family member was ill in California. That was it. Until a year later, 2 weeks before the shooting, when Jason Brown called Ellen Robinson and took her up on a standing offer to visit. Brown proved to be a considerate house guest during the 10 days he stayed in Robinson's spare room.
He'd leave for the day as if he were going to work. And I remember one day I asked him, are you eating breakfast? Get a bagel or something before you leave. And he said, no, that's not right. I'm not going to eat your food. That's not right. And that was it.
Investigators now believe that Brown was parked in the Ahwatukee Mall, staking out the armored truck's pickups during that time. 3 days before he allegedly robbed and killed Keith Palomares, Brown moved out of Robinson's house to the motel. 10 days after that, Robinson was stunned when she heard what Brown was accused of doing.
I just happened to have the TV on, and there's his picture.
Jason Brown's picture?
Yes.
And what are they saying about him?
That he's wanted for murder of an armored car employee. And so I instantly picked up the phone and I left a message. It went to voicemail, and I said, Jason, you got to fix, something's wrong here. Like, they think you did this and you got to come straighten things out. And
did you believe he was capable of doing something like that?
No.
How could one person be so kind on one hand and so apparently evil on the other?
I have no idea. A murderer is not the person I was friends with.
But she did remember one strange thing that happened when Brown was house-sitting for her a year or so before the crime.
I went out of town for a couple days, and I left Jason in the house by himself. And my cat, he said my cat would not even go in the same room as him.
Meaning the cat sensed something bad about Jason Brown.
Yes. My cat was smarter than I was, I guess. Thought maybe it was that player thing, He senses he's a player, too.
Mike Campbell happened to work in a restaurant near the movie theater where Keith Palomares was killed. He knew the shooting victim, who sometimes picked up cash at Campbell's job.
What went through your mind when you learned it was Keith who was the one who was killed?
Shock. Man, I just saw him yesterday. Now he's dead. And it's like, this can't be happening.
And your former neighbor is accused of killing him.
It's a double whammy. You kind of ask yourself, what in the world is going on?
Give me a sense for the information you've gotten from Jason Brown's friends. How he was acting just before the crime.
Most of them described him as depressed. He was sleeping on people's couches. He didn't have the money to live the lifestyle that he wanted to live. Some of his associates described how he was watching shows about crime dramas, and he would talk to them about, hey, armored car, that would be the way to go. If we're going to do a robbery, an armored car would be the one.
They were developing a clearer profile of their suspect, but they were not getting any closer to capturing Jason Brown. Inevitably, the manhunt began to wear on investigators.
We have pressure from our own department to solve this. We have pressure from the victim's family, and then we have pressure that we put on ourselves.
But that pressure would be ratcheted up even more because Jason Brown was about to join that most exclusive and notorious of clubs, the FBI's 10 Most Wanted list. Coming up, is Jason Brown's life on the run a life in the sun?
What do you think the odds are that he's wangled his way into some woman's life someplace and he's being supported and she has no idea she's living with a accused killer?
I think that is the leading theory.